From the St. Louis Public Radio Newsroom, this is The Gateway. It's Tuesday, March 9th. I'm Wayne Pratt. Sumner High School alumni are rallying to save the historic school from closure.
You're not only erasing history of Black St. Louis, but you're erasing American history.
In just a few minutes, St. Louis Public Radio's Ryan Delaney reports on efforts to save the oldest high school for African Americans west of the Mississippi. U.S. Senator Roy Blunt is not running for another term, setting off a Republican scramble for the high-profile office. St. Louis Public Radio's Jason Rosenbaum reports on who could run to take Blunt's place.
After pointing to his litany of accomplishments, Blunt announced via a web video that he's passing on running for a third term.
After 14 general election victories, 3 to county office, 7 to the United States House of Representatives, and 4 statewide elections, I won't be a candidate for re-election to the United States Senate next year.
Some potential contenders to succeed Blunt include Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, Attorney General Eric Schmidt, Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft, and former Governor Eric Greitens. Blunt is a powerful political force in Missouri, but he faced blowback from GOP activists for not trying to overturn President Joe Biden's Electoral College victory. I'm Jason Rosenbaum, St. Louis Public Radio.
Reaction to the announcement has been swift. Republican State Representative Josh Hurlburt from Smithville says Blunt's legacy will include his push for funding increases at the National Institutes of Health.
I've had family members that have suffered from Alzheimer's, and what he's been able to do to get funding for Alzheimer's research, for cancer research, is a true cornerstone of who he is.
Democratic Congressman Emanuel Cleaver says Blunt's retirement will make it more difficult to work across the aisle. St. Louis County officials are easing coronavirus restrictions on businesses and private gatherings, but they say residents should continue to protect themselves against the virus. St. Louis Public Radio's Chad Davis reports.
St. Louis County Executive Sam Page says all county businesses can now remain open until midnight. Indoor banquet and conference venues can operate at up to 25% capacity, and outdoor events can operate at half capacity. County Health Director Dr. Faisal Khan says the changes are possible because the number of coronavirus cases is dropping across the St. Louis region. But Khan says residents should remain vigilant as there are now new variants of the coronavirus.
We are not out of the woods yet. We want to give as much of a leeway and concession as possible, but we have to remain cautious and watchful about what the virus can do next.
County officials say private and residential gatherings will now be capped at 20 people indoors and 30 outdoors. I'm Chad Davis, St. Louis Public Radio.
The Missouri House has passed legislation that would allow anyone with a concealed carry permit to transport firearms on public transportation. People without a permit would be allowed to carry a firearm if it's not loaded. The bill applies to publicly funded transportation in Missouri, not to Amtrak or other privately funded institutions. The measure now heads to the Senate. The list of alumni from St. Louis's Sumner High School includes famous singers, a comedian, and several Tuskegee Airmen. It's also the oldest high school west of the Mississippi for African Americans. But now, a shrinking student body has it listed for closure, and a group of dedicated graduates is trying to keep it open. St. Louis Public Radio's Ryan Delaney reports.
Give yourselves a hand.
A few dozen Sumner High School alumni gathered in front of the school on a recent Sunday afternoon. They're decked out in maroon and white jackets, hats, and even masks. Speakers climb the steps to talk about the school's history. They greet the speakers with a bark for the school's bulldog mascot. And as a late winter drizzle came down, they released maroon and white balloons floating across the football field.
Let's play! Showtime!
Eugenia Davis, who graduated from Sumner 50 years ago this spring, organized the rally. Afterward, she described the legacy people looking at the century-old building should see.
And they would see where Tina Turner went to school. They would see where Arthur Ashe went to school.
And she adds Dick Gregory, Grace Bumbury, several Tuskegee Airmen.
They would see all of that to come and look at Sumner.
But today, as those balloons drifted away from the school, they also floated over vacant lots and boarded up buildings. Sumner is one of few remaining anchors of the Ville neighborhood, a once thriving center of Black population and culture in St. Louis. School Superintendent Kelvin Adams says the district can't be relied on to prop up the neighborhood.
The St. Louis Public School District cannot, will not, should not do this in isolation. It cannot do it.
Alumnus Pierre Blaine, who graduated in 1973, says the school's influence extends beyond the Ville.
And so that is one of the reasons why we cannot let it be closed, simply because when you erase that history, you're not only erasing history of Black St. Louis history, but you're erasing American history.
But the current class size at Sumner reflects the urban flight that's decimated the neighborhood. Sumner opened in 1875, and by the 1950s, it was overflowing with more than 2,000 students. Today, about 200 occupy its classrooms and walk its halls. The school district almost closed Sumner a decade ago, but alumni convinced the district to keep it open. Sumner again made a list of city schools to be closed over the winter as the district adjusts to 50 years of shrinking enrollment.
I have just a yearbook from every year that I was there, as well as from...
Robin Weatherspoon flips through her senior yearbook from 1981.
Here I am, down here at the bottom.
She has fond memories of being a cheerleader at state championship football games. The homecoming game against rival Vashon High School was a pilgrimage for thousands of alumni back to the Ville every fall. But today, the school doesn't even have enough kids to field a team.
As alumni, we've dropped the ball because we get together to have the best parties, and we get together to have the best tailgates, but we don't get together to go in and support the mission. And that, I think, we've kind of failed the institution.
Superintendent Adams says recommending Sumner's closure is partially a tool to spark action, and he says the rallying around the school this time is more substantial than 2010.
I think they truly understand and realize, not for the first time, but realize intimately that some of the kinds of things that existed in 1960 existed because the community was a viable community, and that's not happening right now.
With the backing of area arts groups and the historically Black college, Harris-Stowe State University, the district would put new programs into the school to try and attract students from other parts of the city, and Sumner would have its own advisory panel. Adams says he has bought into the new ideas. He will present the plan to the school board Tuesday night for their vote. If the board vote closes Sumner's doors, Eugenia Davis says it would be bittersweet to have the school's final graduation align with her 50-year class reunion.
However, we would make it fabulous.
And Sumner alumni certainly know how to come out for a celebration. I'm Ryan Delaney, St. Louis Public Radio.
Our Maria Altman edited that report. Shula Newman is the executive editor of St. Louis Public Radio. Music by Ryan McNeely of Adult Fur. I am out for the rest of the week. Several colleagues will be filling in on this podcast. I'm Wayne Pratt from the St. Louis Public Radio Newsroom. This has been The Gateway.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, providing more than 41,000 jobs in the production of wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details at choosewood.com.